You know a life is about to change when a single truth finally becomes impossible to ignore. You cannot keep living the way you've been living. That moment hits harder than any failure, louder than any setback, and deeper than any disappointment. It's the moment you feel something inside you, quiet but undeniable, demanding a different path. Rock bottom rarely arrives with drama. It sneaks in, through mornings when you wake up exhausted before your day even starts, through evenings where nothing feels right anymore, through the silent realization that you don't recognize the person you've become. And when you stand in that space, drained, disoriented, unsure where to begin, it can feel like your entire world has come undone. But here is the shift. You don't rebuild everything at once. You rebuild through one honest step, one aligned action, one decision that doesn't require perfection, only truth. This is how real transformation begins, not through chaotic leaps, but through steady, deliberate movement that reclaims your life piece by piece. This audiobook is for the person who is serious about that rise, not temporary hype, not surface-level positivity. This is for someone who feels their potential pressing from within, someone who is tired of repeating the same patterns, someone who knows, deep down, that there is more waiting for them than the life they've settled for. Yes, you will learn discipline, focus, structure, and mental clarity. But more importantly, you will learn how to shift the inner field that drives those actions. Because real change is never just physical. It is psychological, emotional, energetic, transformational. You must align your inner world with the life you want, or your actions will always collide with resistance. Rock bottom feels devastating because it's not just an external collapse. It's an internal one. Your old identity is cracking. Your old stories are losing power. Your nervous system is tired of pretending. But this collapse is not destruction. It is initiation. A reset point. A moment where your brain becomes more open to rewiring. Your emotions reveal truths you've ignored, and your energy begins searching for a higher direction. You don't need motivation right now. You need honesty, consistency, and direction. When your steps are aligned, even small ones, your inner world begins to reorganize around your new path. Trust rebuilds, momentum grows, identity shifts. This is not inspiration. This is reconstruction. Step by step, thought by thought, choice by choice. Your rebuilding begins now. If you're ready to rise above the noise, like the video. It tells YouTube you're choosing awareness over autopilot. Subscribe now, and don't miss the next chapter in your evolution. And remember, the deepest transformation belongs to those who stay until the very end. Chapter 1. Get real with yourself and face the truth. You cannot rebuild a life you're still lying to yourself about. Every transformation begins with a moment that is both painful and liberating. The moment you look at your life exactly as it is, without filters, without excuses, without softening the edges. Most people never reach that moment. They avoid themselves for years. They stay busy, stay distracted, stay numbed, hoping that avoidance will somehow buy them a different future. But avoidance has never built anything. Only truth has. You don't change your life by running from reality. You change it the second you stand still. Breathe deeply and say, "This is where I am, and I refuse to stay here." That declaration, quiet, internal, simple, is the true beginning of a different path. Not the day you feel motivated, not the day circumstances improve, the day you face yourself honestly. And honesty is not comfortable. It forces you to walk into the parts of your life that you'd rather leave in the dark. The patterns you ignored, the mistakes you repeated, the standards you abandoned, the habits that slowly dissolved your confidence, the people you allowed too much access, the choices you kept postponing. None of these things are easy to acknowledge, but every one of them is necessary. The truth hurts because it exposes your role in your own suffering. But that pain is not a punishment. It is data. Pain shows you what you overlooked. It shows you where you abandoned your best judgment. It shows you how far you drifted from the person you intended to be. When you finally stop numbing the pain and listen to it, something powerful happens. The fog lifts. Reality becomes clearer. And with clarity comes direction. Most people don't stay stuck because they're weak. They stay stuck because they're dishonest. They keep telling themselves stories that feel comfortable, but kill their growth. I'll fix it later. It's not that bad. Things will just work out. But deep inside, they know the truth. Nothing changes without change. Nothing improves without action. Nothing begins without personal responsibility. And responsibility is not blame. It is power. Blame is a dead end. Responsibility is groundwork. Blame says, "They hurt me." Responsibility says, "They may have hurt me, but I choose what happens next." Blame freezes your life in place. Responsibility moves it forward. When you take ownership, you reclaim the steering wheel. You stop saying, "It's bad luck. I have no choice. It's too late for me." And you begin saying, "I see what I allowed. I see what I ignored. I see what needs to change now." This shift, inner, quiet, uncompromising, is the moment your life becomes yours again. Facing the truth is not just an emotional act. It is a neurological reset. Your brain relaxes when you stop pretending. Your nervous system stops fighting two realities at once: what's true and what you wish were true. When those two finally match, you feel a strange, almost scary calmness. That calmness is alignment, and alignment is where clarity begins. The most difficult truths are the ones about yourself: that you weren't as disciplined as you could have been, that you let distractions lead you, that you stayed in environments that kept you small, that you ignored your own intuition, that you wasted time hoping instead of acting. Admitting these things does not diminish you. It frees you. Because the moment you stop hiding the damage, you can start repairing it. Think of your life as a field of energy, shaped by repeated choices. Every habit, every environment, every daily action emits a signal. If that signal is divided, if you say you want change, but act like someone who stays the same, your life becomes chaotic. But when you face the truth and align your behavior with it, your inner signal strengthens. It becomes coherent, clear, powerful, and your outer life begins to reorganize around that coherence. This is why truth is the first chapter. Without truth, every other step collapses. You cannot build discipline on denial. You cannot build focus on fantasy. You cannot build structure on a foundation that keeps shifting. Honesty is the ground you build everything on. Ask yourself the questions most people run from. What did I tolerate that broke me down? What did I ignore because it was easier than confronting? Where did I abandon myself? What patterns am I still repeating that no longer serve who I want to become? These questions are not for guilt. They are for clarity. And clarity is power. Once you see your life clearly, you can no longer pretend you don't have a choice. Once you admit what's broken, you can stop living as if you're powerless. This chapter is your turning point, the moment you stop explaining the past and start directing the future. The moment you stop narrating excuses and start naming solutions. The moment you stop hoping for rescue and start building your own rise. Nobody is coming to save you, and that is your freedom. Because if nobody is coming, that means you are not waiting anymore. You're moving, you're choosing, you're rebuilding. Truth is the beginning of all power, and today you begin with truth. Chapter 2. Transmuting Pain into Power. You don't end up at rock bottom by accident. Nobody reaches this point without scars, disappointments, broken promises, some made by others, many made by yourself. When life collapses, it is rarely because of one event. It's a buildup, a slow accumulation of avoided truths, delayed decisions, ignored intuition, and habits that slowly weakened your foundation. And beneath all of this sits a truth that's hard to face, but freeing when you finally allow it in. Pain didn't just happen to you. Pain was showing you something. People often treat pain like an enemy, something to escape, suppress, or outrun. But pain is a teacher that doesn't lie. It reveals what comfort hides. It exposes what you've been pretending not to see. It points directly at the places where your life drifted out of alignment, long before everything broke. Pain is the body's alarm, the heart's warning, the mind's attempt to restore balance. And when you stop fighting it and begin listening, pain becomes information. It becomes fuel. It becomes the doorway back to power. Most of the time, we ignore pain because we think we're not strong enough to face what it's trying to show us. But the truth is the opposite. Pain appears when you're strong enough to face the truth you've been avoiding. It rises when pretending is no longer sustainable. It pushes you toward evolution you've delayed for too long. Pain says, this habit is destroying you. This environment no longer matches who you are. This relationship is draining your life force. This version of you must die so a new one can rise. This is not poetic. It's biological and energetic. When something in your life becomes misaligned with your true direction, stress builds in the nervous system, emotional charge accumulates in the body, and your internal field becomes incoherent. The longer you stay in misalignment, the louder the signals become. First discomfort, then frustration, then exhaustion, then breakdown. Rock bottom is simply the moment when every ignored signal gathers into one undeniable truth. Something must change. The original script says, pain is a powerful teacher because it shows you everything you ignored. That is true, but it goes deeper. Pain also holds energy. Emotional pain is not just a feeling. It is stored tension in the body, electrical charge in the nervous system, loops of thought in the mind. When you avoid it, the charge stays trapped. When you face it, you release it. And when you release it, the energy that once held you down becomes the energy that lifts you up. This is the essence of transmutation, turning emotional weight into emotional strength. You transmute pain when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That one shift moves you from victimhood to leadership. It transforms helplessness into direction. And direction, more than motivation, more than inspiration, is what rebuilds your life. Look back at the moments when things began falling apart, not with guilt, but with clarity. Where were you drifting? Where were you avoiding? Where were you choosing comfort over accountability? Where were you giving your best energy to people or habits that didn't deserve it? These questions are not for blame. They are invitations to reclaim power. Because the moment you identify what contributed to your downfall, you identify exactly what will contribute to your rise. But transmuting pain requires courage. You must acknowledge your own role in the collapse, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. When you say, "I could have done better," you are not diminishing your worth. You are refusing to stay small. Taking responsibility is not self-attack. It is self-liberation. Because when the problem is in your hands, the solution is too. Pain has another message. It reminds you what you lost. It reminds you what you neglected. It reminds you who you were before you abandoned your own standards. That memory is not meant to shame you. It's meant to awaken you. You are not broken. You are buried. And pain is the shovel that uncovers who you were always meant to be. Understand this. Rock bottom does not mean there is nothing left. It means everything false has fallen away. The ego collapses. The illusions collapse. The excuses collapse. What remains is truth. And truth is the only material strong enough to build a new life on. When you begin naming the real reasons you ended up here, habits, decisions, avoidance, patterns, you stop living in confusion. You stop living in emotional fog. You stop repeating the same cycles. Your mind sharpens, your awareness strengthens, and your inner world begins to reorganize. This is what happens on a neurological level. When you face pain directly, the amygdala, fear center, calms. The prefrontal cortex, decision and clarity center, activates. Your nervous system shifts from survival mode to problem-solving mode. In spiritual terms, when you face the pain, your inner field stops vibrating in fear and begins stabilizing into clarity. Pain processed becomes power. Pain ignored becomes paralysis. This chapter is about transformation at the root, not surface change, not temporary motivation, but the deep internal shift where you finally say, "I will not waste this pain. I will not repeat this pattern. I will not betray myself again." When you make that commitment, the past loses its grip. The old identity begins to dissolve, and the new you, the one you've ignored, doubted, or silenced for years, begins to emerge. Pain brought you to this point. Truth will carry you forward. But courage, your courage, is what will turn everything you've suffered into strength you never thought you could hold. This is how you rise. Not by erasing the pain, but by transforming it. Not by burying the past, but by building on its lessons. Not by hoping life becomes softer, but by becoming stronger. Your pain is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of your power. Chapter 3. Remove distractions and clear the noise from your life. If your life feels stuck, heavy, or chaotic, it's rarely because you lack potential. It's because your attention, the most powerful force you have, is being scattered, drained, and swallowed by things that do not matter. You cannot rebuild a life while your mind is being pulled in 10 different directions that lead nowhere. You cannot create clarity while living inside constant noise. And you cannot rise into a stronger version of yourself while the old world keeps hijacking your focus. Distraction is not harmless. It is an invisible thief. It steals hours, steals energy, steals presence, steals discipline, and over time, it steals identity. You stop living intentionally and start living reactively, letting algorithms, impulses, emotions, and other people dictate how your day unfolds. And when your attention is unguarded, your future is unguarded. When the original script says most people stay stuck, not because they don't want a better life, but because they're too distracted to focus on one, it is telling the truth. But that truth goes deeper. Distraction is not just a habit. It is a state of consciousness. A scattered mind cannot build a coherent life. A fragmented attention creates a fragmented reality. Look at how your day actually begins. Not the version you imagine, the real one. Do you wake up and give your first moments to your phone? Do you scroll before you breathe? Do you check notifications before you check in with yourself? That isn't just a morning mistake. It's a message you send to your brain. Other people's lives matter more than my own, and your brain believes you. Every time you reach for distraction, you reinforce a mental pathway that chooses escape over progress. Every time you choose noise over presence, you weaken the muscle that builds discipline. Over weeks and months, this becomes a pattern. Over years, it becomes an identity, and that identity becomes a destiny. You can't build a new life with the mind of your old patterns. To rebuild yourself, you must reclaim your attention. You must take back the life force you've been giving away. Attention is not casual. It is creative. Whatever receives your focus becomes stronger in your life. If you constantly focus on stress, stress expands. If you constantly focus on distraction, distraction expands. But if you focus on clarity, clarity expands. If you focus on your future expands. This is both neuroscience and spiritual law. Neuroscience calls it selective reinforcement. Spiritual science calls it resonance or frequency. Whatever you repeatedly attend to becomes the signal you broadcast, and life responds to that signal. This is why clearing distractions is not optional. It is foundational. Start by noticing what steals your focus. Not in theory, in reality. Look at the apps that consume you. Look at the conversations that drain you. Look at environments that clutter your mind. Look at habits that numb you. Look at people whose presence leaves you unfocused and small. All of these things pull you away from the life you're trying to build. And the truth is simple. You cannot rise while carrying everything that kept you low. You cannot move forward while holding on to what holds you back. You cannot create a future while drowning in noise. Cutting distractions isn't punishment. It's liberation. When you remove what pulls you off your path, you reclaim power you didn't even know you lost. Start small. Remove the obvious. The apps you check without thinking. The hours lost scrolling in bed. The constant background entertainment. The notifications that fracture your mind into pieces. Then look deeper. Remove emotional distractions. People who bring drama. Conversations that pull you backward. Environments where your worst habits thrive. Patterns you use to avoid discomfort. Clearing distractions will feel uncomfortable at first, because distraction has been your escape. It kept you numb, kept you occupied, kept you from facing your truth. But temporary discomfort is a small price to pay for long-term direction. When you clear the noise, something unexpected happens. Silence returns, and silence can be intimidating, because silence makes you confront your life honestly. Silence reveals your real desires, your real wounds, your real potential. But silence is also where clarity grows. It is where focus tightens. It is where your inner world stops spinning and begins aligning. As you remove distractions, your energy rises, your mind sharpens, your days feel longer, your goals feel clearer. You stop feeling overwhelmed because your attention is no longer leaking into meaningless places. You begin to operate from a place of intention rather than reaction, and that shift alone can change the trajectory of your entire life. Most people never rise above average, not because they lack intelligence or strength, but because they never master their focus. A distracted person cannot achieve depth. They cannot build momentum. They cannot stay consistent. They start, stop, reset, drift, and repeat. And over time, they lose trust in themselves. But when you remove distractions, momentum returns. You begin to feel yourself again. You begin to believe in yourself again. Your mind stops being a battlefield and becomes a tool. Your attention stops being stolen and becomes a weapon. You don't need more time. You need fewer leaks. You don't need more motivation. You need more clarity. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a focused path. Clearing distractions is how you reclaim control over your life. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. Because the moment you reclaim your attention is the moment you reclaim your power. Chapter 4. Reclaiming your attention as life force. Your attention is not just a mental function. It is your life force. It is the fuel that powers every decision, every habit, every creation, every new identity you try to build. And yet, most people give it away without a second thought. They let the world pull at them, drain them, scatter them, until they have nothing left for themselves. If you do not reclaim your attention, you cannot reclaim your life. The original script explains that distraction blocks your growth, steals your time, and keeps you stuck in cycles that go nowhere. But here is the deeper truth. Distraction weakens your inner field. It fragments the energy you need to rebuild your mind, your habits, and your future. And until you take back your attention, nothing else in this audiobook can fully work. Focus is the foundation of all transformation. So start by observing your day, not with judgment, but with honesty. How many hours disappear into pointless scrolling? How often do you check your phone without intention? How many conversations drain you? How many times do you jump from task to task without completing any of them? These aren't small mistakes. They are fractures in your attention, cracks in your power, leaks in your energy. And the life you want cannot be built on cracks. The mind loves stimulation. It loves novelty. It loves quick hits of entertainment. But your soul, your deeper intelligence, loves depth, stillness, direction, meaning. Distraction feeds the mind. Focus feeds the soul. And whenever the mind gets all the fuel, while the soul starves, your life feels off balance, anxious, empty, or directionless. The original script says, if you don't control what takes your focus, your future will be in someone else's hands. That is not a metaphor. It is literal. Every habit you have, every emotion you feel, every pattern you repeat, is shaped by where your attention goes. If your attention is scattered, your identity becomes scattered. If your attention is weak, your will becomes weak. But when your attention is sharp, your path becomes sharp. Reclaiming your attention is not just about deleting apps or putting your phone away. It's about taking ownership of your internal state. It's about becoming the kind of person who treats focus as sacred, not optional. Because every powerful person, every disciplined mind, every resilient soul, every builder of real change has one thing in common. They protect their attention like their life depends on it. Because it does. Here is the deeper layer most people never realize. Your brain has limited cognitive energy each day. Your nervous system has limited bandwidth. Your emotional field has limited capacity. Every meaningless distraction drains that capacity. Every scattered hour weakens the next hour. Every small leak becomes a big leak when repeated daily. But when you remove distractions, you don't just free time, you free energy. You reclaim bandwidth. You reclaim clarity. You reclaim direction. And most importantly, you reclaim your ability to go deep. Deep work, deep focus, deep healing, deep growth. Surface attention creates surface change. Deep attention creates deep transformation. Look at your environment. A cluttered room creates a cluttered mind. A chaotic workspace creates chaotic thoughts. Noise in your surroundings becomes noise in your nervous system. This is not superstition. This is biology. When your environment is clean, energy flows. When energy flows, focus strengthens. When focus strengthens, you rise. Your environment must become a container for your new identity. You cannot rebuild your life in the same environment that broke your discipline. Clean your space. Remove physical noise. Remove digital noise. Remove emotional noise. Your environment should help you focus, not fight your focus. Next, look at the people around you. Some people are walking distractions, constant drama, constant chaos, constant demands for your attention. They pull you into small battles that drain you of the strength you need for the real battles within yourself. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you must create boundaries. You must protect your mission. You must decide that not everyone gets access to your energy, your mind, or your time. Your future cannot be shaped by people who aren't going where you're going. As you remove these layers of distraction, your inner world starts to shift. You become less reactive. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotions become steadier. Your actions become more intentional. And slowly, something powerful returns. Your presence. Presence is the opposite of distraction. Presence is when your mind, your body, your attention, and your intention all align in the same moment. When you are present, you become powerful. You become effective. You become grounded. You become someone who can actually execute on their vision. That is why reclaiming your attention is more than discipline. It is becoming whole again. When your attention returns to you, your power returns with it. And from that power, your new life begins. Chapter 5. Rewriting the first hour. Mastering your mornings. The way you start your morning is the way you start your life. Every day is a microcosm of your entire existence. Your mindset, your discipline, your habits, your direction. And if your mornings are chaotic, scattered, or mindless, your life becomes a reflection of that same disorder. Most people don't realize this, but every day begins with a choice. You either set the tone for your life, or the world sets it for you. The original script says that the morning shapes everything that comes after it, and it's right. But the principle goes even deeper. Your morning is the moment your nervous system calibrates. It decides if you will operate from clarity or confusion, from purpose or passivity, from intention or impulse. That calibration is not accidental. It is built by the first actions you take. When you wake up and drift, pressing snooze, scrolling aimlessly, lingering in bed, you're not just wasting minutes. You're weakening the signal of who you are becoming. You're reinforcing old pathways in the brain that say, I don't lead my life, I react to it. And that single message, repeated hundreds of mornings in a row, becomes a personality. Then, it becomes a fate. But the opposite is also true. When you take control of your mornings, you take control of your trajectory. When you begin the day with intention, clarity, and discipline, you send a different message to your mind. I decide who I am today. And that message, quiet, consistent, repeated, becomes the blueprint of your new identity. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. You don't need a complicated routine. You don't need to turn your morning into a ritual of perfection. You simply need to own the first hour. You need to claim it before the world claims you. Because if you let noise, notifications, or distraction enter your mind before you enter your own mind, you lose the day before it even begins. Your morning is where momentum is built. When you start strong, the rest of the day bends in your favor. When you start with discipline, the small wins multiply. And when you start with intention, you move with purpose instead of drifting through hours that never bring you closer to the life you want. This is not motivational talk. It is biology. In the first hour of the day, your brain is highly plastic, highly impressionable. Your hormones are shifting. Your nervous system is choosing its state. Your mind is organizing its hierarchy of priorities. This is the window where you have the most influence over your mental and emotional landscape. If your first action is scrolling, you train the brain to crave stimulation. If it is avoidance, you train the brain to tolerate delay. If it is chaos, you train the brain to normalize disorder. But if your first action is discipline, you train the brain to obey intention. If it is focus, you train the brain to prioritize clarity. If it is movement or structure, you train the brain for momentum. 1 hour. That's all it takes to reset the direction of your life. Begin with something grounding. It can be simple. Make your bed to signal order. Drink water to awaken the system. Move your body to activate energy. Read a few pages to sharpen your mind. Review your goals to remind yourself of your direction. Clean your space to create clarity. You are not doing these things to be productive. You're doing them to build identity. You're proving to yourself that you show up, even in small ways. You're establishing consistency before the world has a chance to interrupt you. You're reinforcing the idea, I am someone who leads my life. That identity is what rebuilds your future. Not motivation, not hype, not feeling good. And here is the spiritual science layer. Your morning creates your frequency, your emotional baseline, your mental tone. If you start your day with intention, your entire energetic field stabilizes. You walk differently. You think differently. You make decisions from clarity instead of confusion. Every morning is an opportunity to realign with the person you are becoming, not the person you were. It is a daily reset, a quiet declaration, a private moment where you choose strength over weakness, order over chaos, direction over drift. You won't feel like doing it every day. You will wake up tired, unmotivated, or emotionally heavy. But that's exactly why mastering your mornings matters. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent. It's about learning to lead yourself before the day tests you. It's about building momentum before the world pulls at you. Because when you stop negotiating with the morning, you stop negotiating with your life. The person who takes control of the first hour controls the entire day. The person who controls their day controls their habits. The person who controls their habits controls their identity. And the person who controls their identity controls their future. Your new life is not built at noon or at night. It is built in the silence of the morning, long before anyone sees the results. It is built in the quiet discipline that rewires your brain, strengthens your will, and calibrates your inner world toward clarity, purpose, and strength. From this point forward, the first hour is yours, not the world's. Rebuild it, shape it, protect it, and it will rebuild you. Chapter 6. Fix the habits that are silently shaping your destiny. If your life keeps collapsing into the same patterns, if you keep ending up in the same emotional cycles, the same mistakes, the same disappointments, then the problem is not fate, not circumstance, not even other people. The problem is your habits. Your habits are the architects of your life. They build your identity, your confidence, your progress, and your future in thousands of small, invisible ways, every single day. The original script says, your life isn't falling apart because of bad luck, but because of the daily patterns you haven't changed. And that truth is deeper than most people realize. Habits are not just routines. They are neurological loops. They are energetic pathways. They are behavioral codes that your mind and nervous system repeat until they become your default identity. And unless you consciously rewrite them, They will continue to recreate the same version of you over and over again. Your habits decide how you wake up, how you think, how you respond to pressure, how you manage your time, how you show up for yourself, and how much of your potential you actually access. You cannot rise with yesterday's habits. You cannot rebuild a new life with patterns that belong to an old identity. Every habit is either a vote for your future or a reinforcement of your past. Start by telling yourself the truth. Your habits are not random. They are emotional coping mechanisms. They are survival strategies you picked up in moments of stress, uncertainty, fear, or comfort. Some habits calm your nervous system. Some numb discomfort. Some distract you. Some protect you. Some weaken you. Some empower you. You don't need to judge yourself for them, but you do need to outgrow them. When the script says, "What you practice every day becomes your life," it is describing one of the most important principles of both neuroscience and spiritual science. Repetition creates reality. Repetition strengthens neural circuits. Repetition solidifies identity. Repetition builds the architecture of your inner world. And whatever is repeated with enough consistency eventually becomes your fate. If you hit snooze every morning, you're not just delaying your day. You're practicing avoidance. If you check your phone before doing anything meaningful, you're practicing distraction. If you procrastinate, you're practicing self-betrayal. If you avoid hard conversations, you're practicing fear-based decision-making. If you overconsume, overscroll, or overthink, you're practicing self-disconnection. What you repeat, you become. And here's where the deeper layer emerges. The nervous system loves routine because routine feels safe, even when it's harmful. That's why breaking bad habits feels uncomfortable. Your brain is wired to protect familiarity, not growth. Growth is a disruption. It is an interruption of your survival patterns. That discomfort you feel? That's not a sign you're failing. It's a sign you're changing. Awareness is the first step. You cannot interrupt a habit you cannot see. Name it. Write it down. Stare at it without flinching. Not to punish yourself, but to reclaim control. Because the moment you see your habit clearly, it loses its power. The illusion breaks. The autopilot turns off. Once awareness is there, replacement must follow. You cannot remove a habit by force. You must replace the behavior with a better one. Your brain needs a new pathway, not just the absence of the old one. If your habit is sleeping late, you replace it with a simple morning structure. If your habit is avoiding discomfort, you replace it with one daily hard task. If your habit is endless scrolling, you replace it with time blocks of focus. If your habit is emotional eating, you replace it with grounding techniques. If your habit is procrastination, you replace it with start before you think. Small replacements, practiced daily, create major rewiring. This is the moment your identity begins to shift. You are no longer someone who avoids life. You are someone who enters it. You are no longer someone who drifts. You are someone who directs. You are no longer someone who reacts. You are someone who leads. This shift is where spiritual alignment begins. When your habits change, your energy changes. When your energy changes, your thoughts change. When your thoughts change, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your entire life begins to transform. This is not magic. It is alignment. It is resonance. It is the law of inner to outer. Your external reality can only rise to the level of your internal patterns. You must accept that the habits that once protected you may now be the very habits that limit you. The behaviors that once soothed you may now be the routines that hold you back. The patterns that once helped you survive may now be the patterns that prevent you from growing. Letting go of these habits is not loss. It is liberation. And you must expect resistance. Old habits will call you back. They will whisper excuses. They will tempt you through comfort, familiarity, and old emotional rhythms. But every time you choose a stronger behavior over a weaker one, you're not just building discipline, you're building a new identity. Every consistent choice becomes a brick in the foundation of the person you are becoming. One day, you will wake up realizing that the things that once felt impossible now feel natural. The things that once felt unfamiliar now feel like home. This is the moment most people never reach because they quit too early. But if you keep going, if you persist through the discomfort, the doubt, the boredom, you will arrive at that moment where your new habits feel like second nature. That is when your life begins to rise effortlessly. That is when your progress accelerates. That is when your identity solidifies. That is when you stop trying to change and start living the change. Fixing your habits is not about perfection. It is about evolution. It is about choosing alignment over comfort, direction over distraction, purpose over passivity. And you do it not once, but daily, quietly, consistently, intentionally. Because your habits are not just behaviors. They are the architecture of your destiny. Change them, and you change everything. Chapter 8. Build structure into your days and follow it like your life depends on it. Your life will not change because you feel inspired. It will not change because you want it badly. It will not change because you've had a breakthrough, a realization, or a moment of clarity. Your life changes when your days change, when your hours become intentional, when your time stops leaking into places that weaken you, when you create structure and commit to it, not occasionally, but daily. The original script says that without structure, you drift. That's true. But drifting is more dangerous than it sounds. Drifting isn't just wasted time. Drifting is the slow erosion of your identity. It is the process where you lose yourself in habits you never chose, routines you never questioned, and patterns you never challenged. Days bleed into days, and suddenly months pass, with nothing to show but regret. Structure is not rigidity, it is freedom. It is the container inside which your best self can actually exist. It is the system that protects your future from your impulses, emotions, and old patterns. It is the roadmap that prevents you from falling back into the life you're trying to escape. Most people don't lack intelligence, ambition, or potential. They lack structure. They lack a framework that holds them accountable when motivation fades. They lack a plan that guides them when their emotions fluctuate. They lack order in a world filled with distractions, chaos, and noise. But here is the deeper truth. Structure is not just discipline. It is alignment. It aligns your actions with your intentions, your behavior with your identity, and your days with your destiny. Without alignment, even the strongest desires collapse into inconsistency. Structure begins with clarity. You must know what matters, what does not, what moves your life forward, what keeps you small, what deserves your time, what does not deserve another second. Once that clarity is there, you build your days around it, not the other way around. You do not wait for time to appear. You carve it. You do not hope your priorities fit in. You schedule them. You do not trust your emotions to guide you. You trust your structure. Start with the essentials, the actions that unlock every other part of your life, your health, your work or craft, your personal growth, your reflection or grounding, your rest and recovery. These are pillars, not options. Your day doesn't need to be micromanaged, but it needs a backbone, a framework, a shape, a rhythm. Something solid enough to hold your purpose and flexible enough to support your growth. The original script says, "Successful people don't wing it." And that truth goes deeper than practicality. People who live without structure are constantly trapped in decision fatigue, using mental energy just to figure out what they should be doing. But when your day has a structure, you conserve energy for what matters. You reduce internal friction. You remove hesitation. You move with precision, not guesswork. Structure also protects you from your weaker moments. When you are tired, structure leads you. When you are stressed, structure stabilizes you. When you are unmotivated, structure carries you. When your emotions fluctuate, structure stays solid. You cannot build a new identity while living in the same formless days that shaped your old identity. Your day must reflect your future, not your past. Here is the deeper spiritual layer. Structure generates internal order. Internal order generates internal peace. Internal peace generates clarity. Clarity generates power. Chaos is not just external. It is energetic. And when your daily life has no boundaries, your internal energy becomes scattered, unfocused, and weak. Structure gathers that energy. It concentrates your attention. It organizes your mind. It turns scattered efforts into focused progress. Think of structure as the spine of your life. Without it, everything collapses. With it, everything stands upright. So start simple. Define the 3 actions you must do every day. No negotiation, no excuses. Give them time slots. Honor those time slots like promises. If life interrupts, you adjust, not abandon. If emotions resist, you act anyway. Every time you follow your structure, you reinforce a new identity. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who leads my life. I am someone who honors my time. And when that identity becomes strong, discipline becomes natural. Structure becomes normal. Consistency becomes automatic. Within a few weeks, you'll notice the shift. Your days feel cleaner. Your mind feels sharper. Your focus feels deeper. You're no longer drifting. You're directing. You're no longer reacting. You're choosing. You're no longer living from emotion. You're living from intention. This is how lives change. Not with chaos. Not with hype. Not with spontaneous bursts of effort. With structure. Quiet, steady structure, honored every day. Build it, protect it, follow it. Your future depends on it. Chapter 9. Train your mind every day. The inner work that rewrites your life. Every action you take, every habit you follow, every decision you make begins with a single source. Your mind. Not motivation. Not circumstances. Not luck. Your mind is the engine behind everything you do. And if that engine is scattered, weak, unfocused, or filled with doubt, nothing in your external world will truly change, no matter how hard you try. The original script says, you must work on your mindset daily, not once in a while, not only when life hurts, but every single day. That is not a suggestion. It is a fundamental law of transformation. Your mind is not fixed. You are not stuck with your current patterns. Your inner world is plastic, shapeable, rewritable, expandable, but only if you commit to training it, consistently, intentionally, and with full awareness. Here is the truth most people never hear. Your mind becomes what you feed it. Your mind becomes what you repeat. Your mind becomes what you tolerate. Your mind becomes what you practice. Thoughts are not random. They are rehearsed. Beliefs are not permanent. They are conditioned. Patterns are not destiny. They are habits of thinking. And the life you are living right now is the sum total of all the thoughts you've rehearsed, repeated, and believed over years of unconscious mental training. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You rise to the level of your mindset. Your mind is a filter. It filters opportunity, meaning, decisions, and emotions. A weak filter lets in doubt, fear, noise, and confusion. A strong filter lets in clarity, courage, and focus. If your filter is distorted, your perception is distorted, and your perception becomes your reality. This is where spiritual science and neuroscience meet. Your thoughts generate electrical signals in the brain. Those signals create emotional patterns. Those emotional patterns generate energetic frequencies. Those frequencies shape the quality of your lived experience. This is why mindset is not optional. It is foundational. If you want to rebuild your life from the ground up, you must rebuild your inner architecture. You must create space inside yourself where strength, clarity, and stability can take root. Mindset training begins with awareness. You must become conscious of your thoughts before they become behaviors. Catch the doubt before it becomes hesitation. Catch the fear before it becomes avoidance. Catch the anger before it becomes reaction. Catch the overwhelm before it becomes paralysis. This is the skill that separates those who grow from those who repeat the same life year after year. Awareness creates choice. Choice creates direction. Direction creates identity. From this awareness, you then elevate your mental inputs. Most people are careless with what they let into their minds, scrolling, comparing, absorbing negativity, consuming noise. They fill their consciousness with chaos and then wonder why their internal world feels heavy or unstable. You must protect your mind like sacred ground. What you listen to, what you read, who you allow into your space, what you watch, what you give your attention to. Every piece of information you consume either strengthens you or weakens you. There is no neutral input. Next, you must speak to yourself with intention. Not blindly positive, not artificially cheerful, but truthful. Self-talk is not about hype. It is about direction. It is about alignment. You're not trying to feel good. You're trying to stay on course. When you make a mistake, you don't collapse into guilt. You acknowledge it. You adjust. You continue. That is mental strength. When fear appears, you don't shame yourself. You observe it. You breathe through it. You move anyway. That is mental discipline. Training your mindset also means creating mental routines, anchors that stabilize you. In the morning, silence, reflection, intentional grounding, a clear signal to your mind. This is who I am becoming. At night, review, gratitude, correction, a clear signal to your mind. This is how I will grow tomorrow. These routines seem small, but they reshape your inner structure. They give your mind boundaries. They create psychological order, and order gives birth to peace. Then comes the real test, emotional storms, when life is unfair, when people disappoint you, when nothing feels stable, when your heart is heavy, when your energy is low. These moments are where weak mindsets break and strong mindsets rise. Because mindset isn't just about thinking positively. It's about thinking clearly. It's about anchoring yourself in truth when emotion tries to pull you away. It's about holding your inner ground. Spiritual science calls this coherence. Neuroscience calls it regulation. Life calls it resilience. People who rebuild their lives do not rely on motivation. They rely on mental consistency. They rely on daily conditioning of their inner world. They strengthen the voice inside them that says, I will not break the promises I made to myself. I will not return to the patterns that destroyed me. I will not repeat the identity that kept me small. I will rise. I will adjust. I will continue. Your life changes when your thinking changes. Your thinking changes when your daily mental habits change. This is why mindfulness, journaling, reading, reflection, intention setting, and grounding practices matter. They are not self-help cliches. They are neurological and energetic recalibrations. Every day, you choose which story you feed. The story of your fear or the story of your potential. The story of your past or the story of your future. The story of your excuses or the story of your evolution. This is the inner work. This is the transformation. This is the real rebuilding. You don't change your life from the outside in. You change it from the inside out. One thought at a time. One choice at a time. One day at a time. Train your mind daily. It is the first foundation. It is the deepest foundation. And it is the foundation everything else stands on. Chapter 10. Show up even when nothing in you wants to. There will be days when your mind feels heavy, your body feels tired, and your emotions feel like they're pulling you backward. Days where clarity disappears. Days where the future feels distant. Days where motivation is gone, inspiration is silent, and even the smallest task feels overwhelming. These days are not signs of failure. They are part of the human experience. But they are also the turning points that define who you become. The original script explains this well. Anyone can show up when life feels good. But only the strong show up when nothing feels right. Only the committed move when their emotions resist. Only the grounded keep going when the day feels heavy. Here is the deeper layer most people never understand. Your entire transformation depends on how you move on the days you don't feel like moving. Those days form the backbone of your new identity. They build the deepest layer of self-trust. They separate the version of you that collapses under discomfort from the version of you that transcends it. Showing up on hard days is spiritual work, emotional work, energetic work. It is the moment where you choose your future over your feelings. It is the moment where you declare to yourself, I am not ruled by my mood. I am ruled by my mission. On these days, routine becomes your anchor. Structure becomes your lifeline. Discipline becomes your compass. Consistency becomes your salvation. You don't show up because you feel strong. You show up to become strong. You don't act because you're inspired. You act because your future deserves it. You don't move because it's easy. You move because staying still costs too much. These are the days where the quiet, unseen victories are built. The days that strengthen your soul. Think of the times when everything in you wanted to withdraw. When you didn't want to go to the gym. When you didn't want to start your work. When you didn't want to face yourself. When you didn't want to keep going. And yet the moment you pushed through, even a little, you felt something shift. That shift isn't imaginary. It is your nervous system rewiring. It is your identity reorganizing itself. It is your spirit expanding. Every time you show up on a hard day, you reshape your inner blueprint. Most people collapse under emotional weather. Their effort rises and falls with their mood. Their actions rise and fall with their feelings. Their discipline rises and falls with their energy. And because of this, their life rises and falls, with no stability. But you are not building a life that fluctuates. You are building a life that stands. On hard days, you must lower the intensity, not the standard. Maybe you can't do an hour. Do 10 minutes. Maybe you can't finish the whole task. Do the first step. Maybe you can't show up loudly. Show up quietly. Maybe you can't push hard. Push gently. You don't need force. You need continuity. Because even the smallest action on a hard day carries 10 times the weight of action on an easy day. It is proof to yourself that you are no longer someone who abandons themselves when life becomes heavy. The original script says that your breakthroughs will often come on days when you didn't feel ready. That is true. Emotional resistance is often the final barrier before growth. When you push through that barrier, you unlock a new level of strength. Spiritually, this is called transmutation. Turning heaviness into discipline. Turning discomfort into progress. Turning emotional storms into resilience. Every time you show up despite discomfort, you create a micro-transformation in your identity. These micro-transformations accumulate. They compound. They become momentum. And one day, you will realize something extraordinary. Your low days don't break you anymore. You don't crumble under pressure. You don't disappear when things get difficult. You don't lose progress because of emotions. You have become someone solid, someone grounded, someone consistent, someone unshakable. Remember this: you have already survived every hard day you have ever lived. You have already walked through storms you thought would destroy you. You have already carried weights that once felt unbearable. You are stronger than your feelings. You are larger than your emotions. You are deeper than your doubt. But you must prove it to yourself through action. Show up on the days when your mind is loud. Show up on the days when your heart is tired. Show up on the days when your motivation disappears. Show up on the days when your clarity fades. These days are not interruptions to your journey. They are the journey. When you honor your commitments even when your emotions protest, you become unstoppable. You break the cycle of inconsistency that kept you stuck. You build a version of yourself that you can rely on. Hard days become your training ground. Showing up becomes your mastery. Consistency becomes your identity. And that identity will carry you through anything. Chapter 11. Build strength through small wins and quiet momentum. Transformation does not begin with massive breakthroughs. It does not begin with dramatic changes or overwhelming effort. It begins with the smallest actions you are willing to repeat. Actions so simple, they seem almost insignificant. But they are not insignificant. They are the foundation of everything you are trying to become. The original script says, progress comes from small, consistent wins, not explosive moments. And that truth is universal across psychology, neuroscience, and spiritual science. Small wins compound into identity change. They teach your mind that you can follow through. They teach your nervous system that consistency is safe. They build trust, one tiny action at a time. Most people fail not because they can't take big steps, but because they underestimate the power of small ones. They want transformation to happen fast. They want visible proof. They want momentum without patience. They want the peak without climbing the mountain. But every strong identity is built brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. You don't rise by force. You rise by consistency. A 5-minute workout, a 10-page reading session, a single finished task, a clean room, a quiet walk, a promise kept, a boundary respected. These things seem small, but spiritually and biologically, they are massive. Every time you complete a small win, your brain releases signals of competence. Your inner field becomes more coherent. Your energy stabilizes. You step into micro-alignment. In spiritual science, this is resonance. In neuroscience, this is reinforcement. In life, this is momentum. Small wins prove that you are no longer the person who quits. They prove that you can trust yourself again. When you are rebuilding from rock bottom, you do not have the luxury of wasting days. Your small decisions matter now more than ever. Because when everything has fallen apart, consistency becomes survival. Stability becomes medicine, and momentum becomes healing. The original script asks, what's the point of a 5-minute workout or one journal entry? Here is the truth. The point isn't the action, it's the signal. You are telling your mind, I do not abandon myself. I am becoming someone reliable. I move even when I am not motivated. I honor the future I want. This is identity training, and identity training is the deepest transformation of all. Small wins also reduce overwhelm. When life feels heavy, taking giant steps will crush you. But small steps bring relief. They restore direction. They remind you that you are capable of movement. They help you breathe again. Your brain thrives on progress. Not dramatic progress, but measurable, repeatable progress. That feeling of, I did something today, is fuel. It builds momentum. It strengthens belief. And belief is the most powerful internal force you possess. Over time, these small actions shift everything. Your confidence rises. Your discipline stabilizes. Your clarity increases. Your self-image transforms. Your emotional resilience deepens. Small wins make you unstoppable, not because they are impressive, but because they are unbreakable. And here is the spiritual law. Consistency amplifies energy. The more frequently you take action, the stronger your inner field becomes. The stronger your field becomes, the more momentum you attract. The more momentum you attract, the easier discipline becomes. And the easier discipline becomes, the faster you rise. This is how people go from fragile to stable, from scattered to focused, from lost to ascending. Not by intensity, by steadiness, by presence, by follow-through. You must stop waiting for motivation. You must stop expecting instant results. You must stop dismissing small progress. Your future is being built right now, in the small actions you choose or avoid. Don't underestimate your 5-minute wins, your quiet victories, your simple routines, your seemingly unimportant choices. They are the seeds of your transformation, and you must protect them, nurture them, repeat them, honor them. Because one day, without fanfare, you will wake up and realize you have become someone entirely different, someone stronger, someone more grounded, someone who no longer collapses under pressure, someone who trusts themselves deeply. That shift won't come from one big event. It will come from the hundreds of small wins you stacked in silence. Your new identity is built in these moments. Your new life is built in these repetitions. Your strength is built in these choices. Small wins are not preparation. They are the transformation. Keep stacking them. Keep honoring them. Keep trusting them. One small victory at a time. You are becoming unstoppable. Chapter 12. Level up until the old you no longer recognizes you. Transformation is not a single event. It is not a sudden burst of motivation, nor a temporary shift in behavior. Transformation is an ascent. Slow, deliberate, disciplined. It is the steady evolution from who you were into who you are capable of becoming. And if you stay committed long enough, there will come a moment when you look at your life, your habits, your boundaries, your stability, and realize the old you could never survive here. The original script explains that you cannot reach your next level while staying the same, and that momentum must be protected. But let's go deeper. Every level of your life requires a new frequency of thought, a new standard of action, and a new identity to live within. You cannot carry your old fears, old habits, and old self-image into your next chapter. They simply do not fit. Leveling up begins internally. Before your life changes externally, your identity must shift, not slowly, constantly, not accidentally, intentionally. You rise not because life gets easier, but because you become bigger, stronger, clearer. Most people stop evolving the moment life becomes comfortable. They confuse comfort with peace. They confuse good enough with alignment. They confuse progress with stability. That is the trap. Comfort is the silent killer of potential. It convinces you to pause. It convinces you to soften. It convinces you that the climb is optional. But comfort is not your friend. Growth begins when comfort ends. Evolution begins when excuses end. And your next level begins when your old identity ends. Here is the truth most people avoid. The version of yourself that created your old life cannot build the life you're trying to create now. Levels are earned. They are initiated. They are crossed through effort, discomfort, and clarity. Every time you level up, you shed something. An old belief, an old habit, an old story, an old identity, an old environment, an old relationship, an old emotional pattern. Spiritual science calls this shedding a shift in consciousness. Psychology calls it identity expansion. Life calls it growth. You do not get to keep who you used to be if you want the life you've never had. This is why your journey requires discipline, not punishment, alignment. The more you evolve, the more disciplined you become. Not because someone forces you, but because your purpose becomes too strong to betray. You stop negotiating with your laziness. You stop romanticizing your past. You stop explaining your weaknesses. You stop making excuses for your old patterns. Leveling up is not about intensity. It is about standards. Rising standards, higher expectations, cleaner boundaries, sharper clarity, stronger self-respect. Your standards determine how far you can climb. Your habits determine how long you stay there. Your mindset determines how high you can go next. One day, your effort stops being effort. It becomes identity. You look at your routine and realize it feels natural. You look at your decisions and realize they are aligned. You look at your reactions and realize they are calmer. You look at your environment and realize it reflects your values. You look at your life and realize it is finally being created on purpose. This is the moment when the old you becomes unrecognizable. The old you tolerated too much. The old you lived in fear. The old you avoided responsibility. The old you wasted time. The old you lived small. The old you survived. But the person you are becoming is different. You protect your focus. You follow through on your word. You act when it's uncomfortable. You choose discipline over distraction. You choose growth over comfort. You choose your future over your excuses. You do not wait for the world to believe in you. You believe in yourself through your actions. You do not seek validation. You validate yourself through your consistency. You do not fear failing. You use failure as information. Levels are not climbed by talent. They're climbed by identity. People will notice. Some will admire you. Some will feel threatened. Some will fall away. Some will rise with you. Some will ask what changed. Some will say you've changed too much. But this is the truth. You are not changing too much. They simply never expected you to outgrow who they knew you as. Do not shrink to make anyone comfortable. Do not slow down to keep familiar people close. Do not apologize for becoming stronger. Do not dim yourself to fit into old spaces. You are evolving. You are rising. You are leveling up. And leveling up is not meant to be understood by everyone. Your only responsibility is to keep going. Tracks, progress, adjust, rise, repeating, refining, and elevating your standards again and again. Because there is no final level. There is always a higher version of you waiting. There is always another layer of potential calling you forward. There is always more growth to claim, more strength to build, more peace to master. Keep going until the habits that once felt impossible feel automatic. Keep going until your discipline becomes second nature. Keep going until your identity is shaped by intention, not survival. Keep going until you wake up every morning proud of the person you've become. Keep going until nothing in you resembles the version who doubted, avoided, and delayed. Your next level is not ahead of you. It is inside you, waiting to be activated through consistent action. Rise, evolve, level up again and again until the old you is nothing but a memory of who you outgrew. Chapter 13. Honor the process, even when results are slow. One of the greatest tests you will ever face on your rebuilding journey is the test of patience. The test of staying committed when nothing seems to be happening. The test of continuing your discipline when your life has not yet rewarded your effort. The test of trusting the process long before the process shows any signs of working. The original script teaches that progress is quiet, slow, and often invisible. But here is the deeper truth. Your life changes internally, long before it changes externally. The roots grow before the tree rises. The alignment happens before the breakthrough appears. The identity shifts before the results manifest. But because you cannot see the internal transformation, you assume nothing is happening. That assumption is what destroys most people's growth. Not failure, not effort, not difficulty, impatience. Impatience is the enemy of evolution. It convinces you to quit right before the breakthrough. It tricks you into believing the process isn't working. It magnifies your doubt and weakens your discipline. It makes you abandon actions that were one day away from bearing fruit. Here's the deeper perspective. When you begin improving your habits, your mindset, your focus, and your daily structure, your energetic pattern begins to shift. Your nervous system recalibrates. Your thought patterns reorganize. Your emotional reactions soften. Your identity evolves. But your external world, your finances, your relationships, your results, lags behind that internal shift. Life rearranges slowly because it is responding to the new signal you are sending out. Spiritual science calls this energetic alignment. Neuroscience calls it neuroplastic integration. Life calls it momentum. Either way, the principle is the same. Your results appear after your identity stabilizes, not before. This is why the early stages of rebuilding feel frustrating. You are doing the work, but can't see the reward yet. You are giving effort, but don't see progress yet. You are showing up, but the world hasn't responded yet. But something is happening inside you. And that internal shift is the most important shift you will ever experience. Because once your identity changes, your behavior changes automatically. And once your behavior changes consistently, results become inevitable. Think of it like this. A person who sees themselves as disciplined behaves in disciplined ways. A person who sees themselves as weak behaves in weak ways. A person who sees themselves as focused protects their focus. A person who sees themselves as inconsistent breaks their own promises. You are training your identity right now. That is far more important than training your results. Most people fail because they wait for external proof before trusting themselves. But transformation works in the opposite direction. You trust first. Then, the results appear. You must learn to honor the quiet stages, the stages where you feel the work but don't see the payoff. You must learn to value the invisible progress, the subtle shifts, the tiny wins, the internal strengthening. You must learn to see patience not as waiting, but as becoming. Every day you show up, something inside you sharpens, something inside you steadies, something inside you takes root. Progress is not always visible, but it is always growing. The universe does not reward intensity. It rewards consistency. It rewards alignment. It rewards identity change. That is why you must keep going, even when your emotions tell you nothing is happening. Because on the days when the process feels slow, your character is being forged, your discipline is being solidified, your future is being shaped, your old patterns are being replaced. Think of it like learning a new language. In the beginning, it feels impossible. You repeat words and nothing sticks. You try to speak and feel clumsy. You read and forget everything. But one day, unexpectedly, it clicks. Not because of one big moment, but because of hundreds of small ones, compounded over time. Your brain was rewiring long before you felt fluent. Your transformation works the same way. There will be a moment, weeks or months from now, when you suddenly realize you no longer hesitate the way you used to. You no longer collapse under pressure. You no longer avoid responsibilities. You no longer sabotage yourself. You no longer relate to your old patterns. You grew quietly, steadily, internally, without recognition, without applause, without proof, until the proof showed up. This is why you must honor the process, even when nothing feels fast. Because nothing lasting is built quickly. Nothing meaningful arrives instantly. Nothing powerful is formed without time. The slow phases are not punishment. They are preparation. Preparation for breakthroughs that require a stronger version of you. Preparation for responsibilities you will soon need to carry. Preparation for opportunities that require stability, not chaos. Preparation for a life you can sustain, not just visit. Success that arrives too early destroys people. Success that arrives after identity change strengthens them. So trust this season. Trust the slowness. Trust the repetition. Trust the days that feel uneventful. Trust the disciplined steps that no one sees. Trust the foundation you're laying. Because the moment your inner world reaches coherence, your outer world will begin to shift with it. And when it does, the growth will feel sudden. But you will know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was earned, quietly, patiently, daily. Honor the process. That is how transformations stay permanent. Chapter 14. Become someone who follows through, not someone who starts over. There is a version of you that tries, and there is a version of you that finishes. Your entire life will be shaped by which version you choose to be. The original script talks about how people rise through consistency, not intensity. But let's go deeper, much deeper. Your future is not determined by how many times you start fresh, restart your goals, or rewrite your plans. Your future is determined by one thing: your follow-through. Follow-through is the bridge between intention and identity, between desire and reality, between potential and transformation, between who you are and who you are becoming. Most people are good at starting. Few are good at continuing. Almost none are good at finishing. And you must ask yourself honestly, which category have you lived in so far? Because starting is emotional. Starting is easy. Starting feels exciting. But follow-through is spiritual. Follow-through is discipline. Follow-through is identity. Follow-through is the act of honoring the person you are becoming, long after the excitement fades. This is the hidden layer. Every time you follow through, you strengthen your internal gravity. Every time you quit early, you weaken it. Internal gravity is the pull that your future exerts on you. A person with strong internal gravity moves efficiently. They make decisions faster. They waste less time. They trust themselves more. They don't collapse at the first sign of resistance. But a person with weak internal gravity hesitates, doubts, delays. They break their own promises so often that their identity becomes unstable. They begin to believe they can't stick to anything. And soon, that belief becomes their self-fulfilling prophecy. Here's the deeper truth. Your self-image is built by what you do repeatedly, not what you hope for occasionally. If you follow through even when it's boring, you build identity. If you follow through even when you're tired, you build resilience. If you follow through even when it's slow, you build momentum. If you follow through even when you doubt, you build faith. Follow through is how you build a life you trust. The original script says, small wins matter. Let's expand. Small wins matter because they are evidence. Evidence that you are not who you used to be. Evidence that you can rely on yourself again. Evidence that your identity is shifting. And identity change is the only real form of transformation. You don't stop being the old you when you get results. You stop being the old you when you become someone who follows through. Think of your goals, your habits, your healing, your discipline as threads. Each time you follow through, you pull the thread tighter. Each time you quit, you loosen it. And your identity is woven from these threads. This is why quitting hurts more than failing. Quitting breaks trust. Quitting fractures identity. Quitting erodes belief. But follow through, no matter how small, restores everything. Quitting destroys. Follow through is also how you escape the cycle of starting over. Starting over feels clean, but it is an illusion. You are not starting fresh. You are repeating the same chapter with the same mindset that made you quit last time. The only way to truly start over is to evolve your identity. And identity evolves through consistent action, not new plans. Now here's the spiritual layer. Follow through strengthens your energetic field. Your energy becomes coherent. Your actions match your intentions. Your habits match your values. Your identity matches your vision. When coherence rises, your life stops resisting you. Life responds to consistency more than intensity. Opportunities find people who are stable. Clarity finds people who are disciplined. Breakthroughs find people who keep their promises. Momentum finds people who move, even when it's slow. Your spirit expands through repetition. Your mind sharpens through repetition. Your confidence rebuilds through repetition. Follow through is the sacred ritual of becoming. This means you must stop waiting for inspiration. Stop waiting for the perfect mood. Stop waiting for a sign. Stop waiting for confidence. Stop waiting for certainty. Just follow through. Quietly, consistently, unwaveringly. You don't need to do it perfectly. You don't need to do it dramatically. You don't need to do it loudly. You simply need to not stop. Because when you follow through long enough, doubts dissolve, old patterns break, procrastination weakens, discipline strengthens, self-trust rises, your identity evolves, your life transforms. You become a different kind of human. A human who is reliable, a human who is steady, a human who does what needs to be done, a human who refuses to break their own word. And when you become that human, Everything in your life becomes possible, not because the world gets easier, but because you finally became someone who can carry the life you've always wanted. Follow through today. Follow through tomorrow. Follow through next week. Follow through until the old you can't keep up with the person you're becoming. Follow through until starting over is no longer part of your identity. Follow through until your future becomes undeniable. Follow through until discipline feels natural. Follow through until quitting feels foreign. Follow through until your actions reflect the highest version of you. This is how you stop restarting. This is how you build strength. This is how you transform your life. This is how you rise. Chapter 15. Cut the negotiations that keep you weak every day. You negotiate with yourself. Sometimes quietly, sometimes unconsciously, sometimes so subtly that you don't even realize it's happening. I'll start later. I don't feel like it today. It's not the right moment. I'm too tired. I deserve a break. I'll do it tomorrow. These negotiations feel harmless, but they are the reason you stay small. The original script says negotiation is the death of discipline, and it's true. But the deeper truth is this. Negotiation is the language of your old identity, trying to survive. Your old patterns don't disappear when you decide to change. They bargain. They whisper, persuade, delay, and seduce you back into comfort. Every time you negotiate with your weakness wins. This chapter is about ending that internal debate, ending the quiet conversations that convince you to postpone your evolution, ending the emotional bargaining that pulls you back into old cycles. Because the version of you who keeps negotiating is the version of you who keeps losing. Negotiation sounds like compassion, but it is self-sabotage in disguise. It wears the mask of rest, self-care, reasonableness, or balance, but beneath it is avoidance, fear, and the desire to stay unchanged. Here's the deeper psychological truth. Your brain is built to conserve energy. It will always choose the path of least resistance unless you override it. That override is discipline. That override is intention. That override is the refusal to negotiate. Everything you want, every goal, every breakthrough, every future version of yourself lives on the other side of the negotiations you keep entertaining. To rise, you must replace negotiation with command. Not force, not punishment, command. The quiet inner decision that says, I move whether I feel like it or not. I don't debate my future. I don't argue with my mission. I do what I said I would do. Command is identity. Negotiation is insecurity. When you live in command, you don't ask yourself if you feel ready. You don't check your mood before taking action. You don't wait for motivation. You simply execute. And when you fail to execute, you adjust quickly, not emotionally. You don't spiral. You don't crumble. You don't create drama. You simply recalibrate and continue. This is the mental maturity that marks the shift into a new identity. The original script says, self-discipline is freedom. Let's expand that to the spiritual layer. Discipline aligns your inner world. Alignment strengthens your energetic field. A strong energetic field creates momentum. Momentum makes life feel easier, not because the tasks change, but because you changed. Negotiation weakens that field. Every time you delay, you create internal friction. Every time you avoid, you create internal conflict. Every time you break your own word, you create internal instability. And instability is what makes life feel chaotic. Look at people who are grounded, centered, consistent. They don't negotiate with themselves. Their identity is so solid that the decision is already made. By the time the task appears, the inner answer is already yes. No debate, no bargaining, no mental noise. That is where true power lives. It's not about becoming robotic. It's about becoming aligned. When your inner world is aligned, you act with clarity instead of hesitation. You act with strength instead of doubt. You act with intention instead of emotion. Negotiation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Evolution is energetic. Cutting negotiation doesn't make you harsh. It makes you free. Free from procrastination. Free from guilt. Free from self-doubt. Free from the emotional roller coaster. Free from the constant battle between who you want to be and who you have been. Here's what it looks like in practice. You wake up and move. No discussion. You follow your structure. No negotiation. You honor your habits. No bargaining. You keep your promises. No excuses. You do the work. No searching for mood. You choose discipline. No emotional permission required. The less you negotiate, the more powerful you become. Because negotiation is exhausting. Discipline is effortless once it becomes identity. You must choose an identity that does not require convincing. An identity that acts. An identity that follows through. An identity that honors itself. An identity that refuses to shrink. An identity that moves. The world does not reward people who negotiate with their weakness. The world rewards people who stand firm, consistent, and aligned. Stop negotiating. Start commanding. Lead yourself with clarity. Act with intention. Move with purpose. Your next level begins the moment you stop debating your evolution. Chapter 16. Protect your energy and remove what weakens you. You cannot rebuild your life while staying in environments, relationships, and mental spaces that drain you. You cannot rise while carrying weights that belong to your old identity. You cannot grow while staying surrounded by people who keep you small, habits that keep you stuck, and energies that keep you unstable. The original script says, your environment influences your discipline, but the deeper truth is this. Your environment shapes your energy, and your energy shapes your destiny. You are not just a thinking being. You are an energetic being. Everything around you interacts with your nervous system. Everything you consume interacts with your emotional field. Everything you allow into your space interacts with your identity. This is why protecting your energy isn't self-care. It is structural. It is strategic. It is spiritual. It is survival. Most people underestimate how much energy they lose daily because they've normalized emotional drains. They've normalized environments that suffocate growth. They've normalized relationships that exhaust them. They've normalized mental clutter that keeps them anxious. But nothing changes until your energy changes. Nothing elevates until your environment elevates. Nothing strengthens until your boundaries strengthen. Start with your environment. Look at your room, your workspace, your home. Clutter creates mental fog. Chaos creates internal turbulence. Noise creates distraction. Disorder creates emotional instability. A low-quality environment forces your nervous system into survival mode. A clean, minimal, structured environment moves you into growth mode. This isn't aesthetic. It's neurological. Next, look at the people around you. Some people bring peace. Some bring chaos. Some bring clarity. Some bring confusion. Some expand you. Some shrink you. People are not neutral. They are either giving energy or taking it. They are either elevating your frequency or lowering it. They are either aligned with your evolution or attached to your past. You don't need to cut everyone out, but you do need to create boundaries clear enough to protect your growth. You are responsible for managing access to you, because the truth is, some people are not bad. They're just aligned with a version of you that no longer exists. Some environments aren't toxic. They're just too small for who you're becoming. Some commitments aren't wrong. They're just outdated. You must learn to detach from what your future cannot carry. Now look at your digital environment. The content you consume is shaping your thoughts. The voices you listen to are shaping your beliefs. The accounts you follow are shaping your emotions. If you constantly absorb negativity, comparison, chaos, or noise, you weaken your energetic field. You weaken your focus. You weaken your identity. Your energy is the foundation of your discipline. Protect it with intention. Then look at your inner environment. Your thoughts, your stories, your interpretations. Some thoughts drain you. Some narratives limit you. Some beliefs sabotage you. You cannot grow while believing the stories that broke you. You cannot rise while thinking the thoughts that weakened you. You cannot evolve while repeating narratives rooted in fear, shame, or past versions of yourself. Every time you catch a draining thought and redirect it, you reclaim energy. Every time you say no to something that weakens you, you reclaim power. Every time you break a pattern that drains you, you reclaim identity. This is spiritual alignment. Your actions, your environment, your people, your habits, and your thoughts, all matching the direction of your evolution. Protecting your energy also means guarding your time. Your time is not just minutes. It is life force. If you waste time, you waste strength. If you waste strength, you waste potential. People who grow quickly are not just disciplined. They are protected. They protect their mornings. They protect their routines. They protect their attention. They protect their focus. They protect their emotional baseline. They protect their peace. Because strength grows in peace, not chaos. Clarity grows in stillness, not noise. Discipline grows in structure, not disorder. Identity grows in alignment, not confusion. If you want to rebuild your life, you must treat your energy like currency. Stop spending it carelessly. Stop giving it to people who don't value it. Stop wasting it on habits that drain you. Stop investing it into environments that shrink you. Your energy determines the quality of your decisions. Your decisions determine the quality of your actions. Your actions determine the quality of your results. Your results determine the quality of your life. Protecting your energy is protecting your future. Remove what weakens you. Release what drains you. Detach from what destabilizes you. Break ties with what belongs to your old identity. Because a stronger life demands a stronger energy field, and a stronger energy field demands stronger boundaries. Your future can only rise in the space you create for it. Protect that space with everything you have. If you've made it to this point, it means you're not someone who quits on yourself. You're not someone who settles for the version of life you've already lived. You're someone who is willing to step into the discomfort, the truth, the responsibility, and the transformation required to rebuild your life from the ground up. And that alone makes you different from most people. But rebuilding is not a moment. It is not a burst of motivation. It is not a single life-changing decision. Rebuilding is a continuous recalibration of your mind, your energy, your habits, your environment, and your identity. You didn't get here by accident. You got here because something inside you refused to stay where you were. You felt the pull of something higher, something stronger, something more aligned with who you're meant to become. Every chapter you've listened to was a piece of the architecture required to create that higher version of you. You faced truth. You removed distractions. You rebuilt your mornings. You corrected your habits. You tackled the hard things. You created structure. You strengthened your mindset. You showed up, especially on the days that hurt. You honored small wins. You leveled up again and again. You protected your energy. These aren't just instructions. They're the foundation of a new identity, one that can withstand pressure, adversity, and uncertainty without collapsing. One that does not rely on motivation, but on discipline. One that does not wait for clarity, but creates it. One that does not fold at discomfort, but grows through it. And here is the truth you must carry with you now. You are not rebuilding your old life. You are building a life you've never lived before. This requires a new version of you, one that doesn't operate on old patterns, old doubts, or old fears. The person you used to be was built from survival. The person you are becoming is built from intention. The old you reacted to life. The new you directs it. The old you feared change. The new you sees change as fuel. The old you avoided hard things. The new you understands that hard things are gateways. The old you waited. The new you moves. And with each step you take, small or large, you are imprinting a new identity into your subconscious mind. You're teaching your nervous system that you are capable. You're training your emotional body to stay grounded. You're conditioning your mind to focus. You're shaping your energy into something steady, powerful, and aligned. Understand this deeply. Transformation is not instant. It is not linear. It is not glamorous. You will have days when you feel unstoppable, and days when you feel like you're sliding backward. But that's not failure. That's recalibration. Growth is the natural tension between who you were and who you are becoming. And every time you choose the future version of yourself over the familiar past, you shift your entire reality forward. Your life will not change all at once. It will change quietly. In the mornings you don't skip, in the habits you keep, in the distractions you cut, in the boundaries you enforce, in the decisions you follow through on, in the moments you show up despite not wanting to. These are the invisible victories that reshape a life from the inside out. And there will come a moment, a silent one, not dramatic, when you realize you aren't the same person anymore. Your thoughts are clearer, your emotions steadier, your habits stronger, your energy calmer, your direction sharper, your standards higher, your inner voice kinder. You will look at your life and see something extraordinary. Not perfection, not fantasy, but progress, real, grounded, earned progress. This is how you rise, not by hoping, not by wishing, not by dreaming, but by living differently every single day. So as you close this audiobook, remember this. You do not need to feel ready to begin. You only need to begin. You do not need to know the whole path. You only need to take the next honest step. You do not need to transform overnight. You only need to keep choosing growth over comfort. Your life is not over. Your story is not done. Your potential is not behind you. Everything you are meant to build, become, and embody still lives ahead of you. Rise one step at a time. Rebuild one decision at a time. Strengthen one habit at a time. Protect your energy, honor your discipline, commit to your path, and watch who you become. Because if you continue this work, there will come a day when you look back and no longer recognize the person you used to be. Not because you lost yourself, but because you finally found the version of you that was waiting to be built. If something you heard today shifted your perspective, help it reach one more person who's ready for change. And if you want to keep growing with us, subscribe. This space will be here when you need it.